Can you walk us through a day in the life of your job in simple terms? What do you actually do from morning to afternoon?
Right. That's a good question. I don't want to scare anybody off and make them think that I work 24 hours a day because I don't. But I do start my morning about 6:30 every morning, but I'm usually at home still. We have like an operations call with our operating technicians where they'll give like kind of a brief update on any safety concerns or how the plant's running. So I call into that most mornings and then head on into the plant. I mean, we are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 operations. So there is always something going on, and you always have to kind of keep your finger on the pulse of that as the plant manager or as anyone in leadership at some of those sites. But I will say that, every day is different. There's not like usually a typical day, but I like that. I like the challenge of that and the newness of wondering what the day will bring every day. But I do try to stick to some routine. Every morning I try to go walk around in the plant and engage with the people that are doing the work out there, one, to make sure they're working safely, but also to just make sure they have what they need to do the job safely. I like to talk to people that don't work in our plant every single day. We have contractors that will come in and out to do like a particular job. And I like to ask them like how it's going inside our plant, and are they being treated well? Do they have what they need? Do they have any suggestions of what we could do better there, or if there's something they like about working there? I like to know what that is so we can keep propagating that forward. But I like to spend a lot of time with our employees out in the field each morning. That really is the best part of my day, to be honest. Stephanie mentioned I really like to interact with people, and that kind of helps me stay focused on what really matters, kind of sets my tone for the day, alleviates my stress a little bit before my afternoon. And that typically is filled with, a good bit of meetings, more strategic work about thinking, how do we, make this plant relevant long term? How do we keep growing here in Corpus Christi, providing opportunities for the next generation and make sure that we're profitable and we're always going to be here? So I focus on those things largely in the afternoon. I also have the privilege of getting to do a lot of community work because of my position. I'm on the board of directors for United Way, as well as the Coastal Bend Bays and Estuaries program. So I invest a good bit of time there, and then also working very closely with other industry partners to solve kind of common problems that we all face here in the Coastal Bend, like water and those sorts of things. But I do get to work very closely with a lot of our industry friends that are in here today, and I really enjoy that.
Awesome. So if we talk about like trying to put it in like plain terms, like say the organizational chart at your site. So if y'all think of like at school, you have a principal, assistant principal, teachers, right? Which one would you be?
Well, at the site, I would be at the top, but I have a lot of bosses still. Don't make no mistake, I'm not the main boss. We do have a corporate headquarters in Houston, so I have several people there that I love to answer to. And, I do have to engage with them periodically through the week as well to make sure I'm meeting their expectations and I'm running the site in a way that meets our corporate standards and policies. But at our site, I am the site manager, and then I have a site leadership team, which would be similar to what Karen, her role is as a technical manager. We have a health and safety manager, of course, maintenance, and a reliability manager. And I have a communications person that I work with, so I get to have a fun team there.
Sounds like a lot of teamwork.
Lots of teamwork, but I enjoy that. Yes.
Love it. All right. So what's something you're really good at that didn't feel like a strength when you were their age?
That's probably the easiest question you asked me. And I did have to think about it a bit, but I would say that it was really relating to people. And, there were some times I felt like that was almost a weakness, because I do have a tendency to want to like help everyone and make everything better for someone. And that can sometimes blur boundaries where people will take advantage of that, right? So you still have to hold people accountable if you're going to be in leadership, but being able to relate to people at every level of the organization is a requirement for success in my field. Our company runs on relationships. We do hire a lot of engineers, and we hire some very, very smart people that are a whole lot smarter than me. I will say I'm rarely the smartest person in the room unless I'm by myself. Um, but I make up for that, I feel like, with my ability to form relationships with people and invest in people, understanding like what motivates them. I was a very social person growing up and got in trouble a lot in high school. Probably like my daughter does now for talking too much and being a little too social in class. But then I have learned that is a strength. I'm usually different from my peers. I will say that we have a lot of plant managers in my company, and when I'm in the room with them, I'm quite different, both one being female, but just in the way that I lead is quite different than a lot of people. So you have to get comfortable with that, and you learn over time, like, oh, that was a strength I didn't realize was there.
Yeah. So one thing I think about, we started a new outreach program where we're partnering with like girls athletic programs, and if they have an away game, we provide some snack bags for them and put our info card in there. And it just got me to thinking, like when I was in high school, I love volleyball. I was on the volleyball team. Volleyball was my sport, and how being on a team, whether it's an athletic team or you're in band or any other programs, anything team related, how those skills transfer over to when you're an adult, when you're in a career, right? And so just like, if you're in band and you're going to a competition, you need everybody to show up and do their part. That's the same way when you get out into the real world. It's all about teamwork. It's all about, being held accountable, holding yourself accountable, because, like you said, you just can't do it all by yourself.
Right. And you have to learn to work with all different types of people, right? No two people are the same, and you have to adjust as a leader to what they need, right? You have to kind of meet them where they are, and you do have to learn how to work with a lot of different people. And I think you can learn a lot about leadership too, and being in those sports teams, and leadership is not easy. And being a leader, even on your volleyball team or your dance team, it's hard work, and you sometimes wonder why you signed up for it, right? Because you do get a lot of heat sometimes, but it teaches you a lot.
Absolutely. All right, last question. If you could go back and sit next to your high school self for about 5 minutes, what would you want her to stop worrying about?
Well, I think I spent a lot of time really stressing over, this path that I viewed to success. Like, I have to do this by this age, and I have to do this, and I have to do this, and follow this kind of scripted path. And I think you learn pretty quickly you can't script it, right? It's just impossible. You don't know what opportunities are going to come your way. You don't know what doors might shut, but others might open. You're not going to be able to say, oh, I have to work my career to wait till when it's a good time to have a baby, right? There's never a good time to have a baby. It's going to disrupt your life no matter what you're doing. And you just have to learn to work around that. I think when I have 2 kids, so both times I worried oh, this being pregnant is going to hold up my career, or choosing not to take a role that I knew was probably too demanding when I had an infant. I have had to do that, where I turned down what I thought was my dream job because I was pregnant with my daughter, and I was so worried they're never going to ask me again, right? I'll never get this opportunity again because I've turned it down this one time. And then they did. It all works out if you just keep pressing to what you want to do. It will all work out in time. There's just no scripted path that you're able to script and think, oh, I've got to go work here, I've got to do this type of role, because it will change over time as you mature and you get different priorities, right? Like your kids become your priority for a while, and work sometimes has to take a back seat, and that's okay. It still all works out.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I think back to, the different seasons of life, right? Because a lot of people ask me, they're like, Stephanie, we don't know how you do all this, right? You do this one's for the gals, you work, how do you do it? And it goes back to my life right now looks different than it did 10 years ago. I have twin boys, they're 22, so they're kind of grown and gone. I have a 16, almost 17-year-old daughter who helps me keep my life together, right? And so, yeah, I have extra time to devote to different things, right? And so I think as, as women, as mothers in the workforce, you got to give yourself grace through all of those different times. There are going to be some times where, yeah, you'll be able to do all the things all the time. And there's going to be times where, you know what, you just got to focus on your family, on your kids as they're growing up and, going to basketball games, soccer games, plays, open houses, and things will change, right? Things will change and they grow up and you just need to, again, just give yourself grace through all of those, seasons of life and just know that your employer will support you through every single one of them.
Yeah, I would just add too, like, it's okay to be different. Like, I'm often different. I'm very different from all the other plant managers in our company. And at first, when I was first in a plant manager role, I thought, I had to like change myself to look like them. I mean, most of them were men, so I wasn't going to look like them, but to act like them or be seen more like them. And when you try to do that, you're not yourself, right? And that won't be a thing, and people will pick up on that. And I think it was when I was older, I finally had to learn, and I think and I had an HR lady that was a friend of mine that said, how about you just be yourself? Instead of trying to look like other people or be like other people, why don't you just be yourself? Because that's what got you here. And you need to just trust that. And I wish I had realized that like earlier in life, right? That it is okay to be different and to just play to your strengths.
Love it. So the message, be yourself. Thank you so much, Alicia, for sharing your story. Let's give her a round of applause.